Hey guys, it's Izzy here with another episode of Roadmap MBA's YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be talking about a topic that I'm so excited to discuss, and it has been trending for quite a while now. It is, of course, squiggly careers. This is definitely a trend that's like emerged in the past, I'd say like couple of months, and it's just, I think it's been something that's been around for a very long time, but we now have like a proper term for it. So yes, squiggly careers. I'm really excited to talk to you guys about this today because not only has it been a very popular subject for a very good reason, I might add, it's also something that essentially is very pertinent and very will be helpful to a lot of people, but is something that is a lot of people's on a lot of people's minds. It's something that's very pertinent to them, something that affects them in a good way, something that they want to know more about, something they want to do, or it's also just something that they have been doing, but again, like this term has now emerged and we can like have a proper, concise definition of what it is. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you guys about this today. My name is Izzy. If you've seen my last video, thank you for watching Roadmap MBA and YouTube channel, and thank you for being here and listening to this video where now we'll talk about squiggly careers. So I think the first things first, we should come up with a definition, or I should tell you the definition of squiggly careers. And the funny thing about it is, like squiggly careers, the definition is just essentially any career path that isn't linear or climbing the corporate ladder. So I know I said it this way, but if you imagine you have like a little corporate ladder here or like a little ladder, and corporate ladder, you'll start off like maybe as like a junior or like an intern. And then depending on how you define positions, I always say like it can be junior, exec, manager, leadership, senior leadership, and then you're on the board, but leadership is on the board, but that's basically how I would define it. Or you can also define it as junior, manager, exec. That's also a different way of looking at it. But yeah, essentially, if you look at it like you have a corporate ladder here, or like a ladder that you're climbing, a squiggly career is anything that isn't following that exact linear traditional path that so many people have followed for so many years, because, well, essentially it was the way that you would go about things. You'd get into a career, you'd pick an area of expertise, whatever that may be, media, content, anything, design, architecture, engineering, and you would climb the steps. Whether that means getting more qualifications on the side and doing courses, or staying in a position for 2 years and then getting promoted and staying within the same company, and climbing those positions in the company. That is climbing the corporate ladder, and that was what many people did for a very long time. And there's been a wild amount of reasons, a wide amount, and also wild actually when you think about it, but there has been a lot of reasons as to why now this is not the only traditional path, and why the term squiggly careers has emerged. It's because there are so many options nowadays of what you could do with your career. You're no longer tied to a company, an area. People go and retrain after 5 years. People change their areas completely. You might start off in like architecture, decide it's not for you, and go into something completely different, like, I don't know, technical SEO. Like it's just so different, and there's just no limitations nowadays to what you can do if you put your mind to it, of course. And these opportunities, of course, do depend on certain situations, certain circumstances. But essentially, we are very fortunate nowadays that the depth, or like the amount of opportunities that we had has just like grown exponentially, right? It went from being like you had to graduate an area, study the course, graduate, stick in that area, and just stick it throughout your life. And now it's like you have so many different options, which is really cool and really exciting when you think about it, because it allows people to do careers they love, to explore different passions, and really try out different things, because that's what I think life is about, finding your passion and going for it. But yes, so squiggly careers is anything that isn't following that traditional corporate ladder. And one of the many reasons why we can do this now is obviously social media. It's just kind of exploded. Social media has been around for a while, but the opportunities that come with it now and everything that people do in terms of content creation has really exploded over the past few years. I think that's a really large reason as to why people are no longer following the traditional corporate career path, that amongst many others. But yes, opportunities are now there's just so many, and social media has brought so many opportunities, and it's so great. I think also we have to consider that there's a whole new generation, entering the market. Like, you've got Gen Z are now like making up 25% of the workforce, and then I think it's by 2030 they're expected to make 35% of the workforce. So you know, you've got a whole different generation. With that comes new ideas and different talents, you know, for different areas. But yeah, that's what I'll be talking to you guys about today. So you've got the definition down. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about it and give you a couple more examples on what a squiggly career is. And then if this sounds like it's for you, I will be giving you some tips and tricks, or if you just have been doing it and didn't even realize, which is awesome also, I'm going to be giving you tips and tricks on how to continue with your squiggly career, how to really hone down, or if it's something that you're like, light bulb moment. You're like, this is something that really resonates with me and I'm not quite sure how to go about it. Stay tuned or stay listening, because I will be giving you tips and tricks on it. But yes, squiggly careers are just anything that isn't the traditional corporate ladder. So if you change areas and you decide to go, like I said before, from like architecture or like design to like technical SEO, that's a squiggly career. Even if you were climbing the corporate ladder on that one, then decided to retrain and go on to another one and climb the corporate ladder there, that's still a squiggly career. A squiggly career is essentially anything that isn't just like staying with one area for your whole life. And a lot of people do change their areas. It's something that has been really like discussed, but it's something that we see more and more, and we have seen over the past few years when you really think about it. You know, your parents, or think about people of an older generation, like they might have stayed in one area for a very long time, but a lot of people, you know, would go into an area and then change. That's still classified as a squiggly career. It's just that now we have this awesome term for it, which is very much in the name, if you think about it. You have a ladder. Think again, I'm going to bring you back to the ladder. You've got a ladder, it's like straight, it's done, it's like very like black and white, I'd say. You know, there's no like, it's just very black and white. And then you think of like a squiggly career. What's the word squiggly? That literally means like squiggly, like lines, right? There's no like direct or like straight or like linear path. There's no like climb one step, climb the next. It's just a squiggle, a big squiggle. And that's, yeah, that is squiggly. I love the name, but I think the name is very appropriate for it, because it's a squiggly career. And you know, I've discuss this with many people, discuss this with like friends, and I think that a lot of people nowadays are more and more into this. I have many friends who have done squiggly careers because they decided to follow their passion, or they decided that they thought they were passionate about something and they changed their mind, which again is very normal, very normal. And yeah, it's just something that's becoming such a trend, but I think it's really important that you know, if it resonates with you, then to go for it. And I have seen people who have done squiggly careers and they could not be happier. So I think that's something really important to point out. So yeah, squiggly careers, very pertinent these days, obviously, because the opportunity we have, the fact that I mentioned before, you know, we've got a lot of like a different generation entering the market now, Gen Z, and there's also the fact that, you know, squiggly careers allow you to have a flexibility. And I think that that's something that people are looking for post-pandemic. So I think those are the three main reasons that it's become such a trend, but that's just my opinion. You can comment below if you agree or disagree with it. But yeah, I think that it's the fact that the social media has just boomed, you know, the fact that it does offer like a lot of flexibility in that sense. But the fact that also there's a different generation entering the market. And then, of course, the fact that the pandemic happened, you know, this like once in a lifetime, or maybe never in a lifetime, but it did happen. You know, the whole world shut down. I'm not going to bore you and talk to you about COVID-19, but like, I think we all experienced it. It's pretty safe to say, and we were all kind of in this thing together. But, you know, of course, when people discuss things about going back to normal, well, there's a new normal now. And I think that because obviously this thing that was no one expected to happen, or maybe some people did, I definitely didn't, happened, it completely changes everything post it, I believe. You know, I think that definitely the way personally I started looking at life was post it different. Like for me, family became a huge priority. I know for other people it definitely did. But I do think that squiggly careers has become also very popular because of this pandemic. Let me explain what I mean by that, because I've realized I've just gone on talking about it. But it was a huge thing. It was a massive thing to happen. I believe that, like, as I was saying, I had a different outlook on life post it than pre-pandemic. Not like a 180, but definitely like a change happened for me. And I believe it happened for a lot of people. I think that post the pandemic, people, kind of had a different outlook on life and were like, well, am I doing what I really want to do? Or does this area of like my job, even if I really enjoy it, does it offer everything I want to do? Like, does it still align with my values? Because your values do change post something as huge as that. Or they might not change, but for a lot of people, I know there was certain priorities that were no longer priorities and other things that became much more important, naturally. So I think that that's also why Squiggly careers have become more popular, because people post-pandemic really examined everything and were like, hold on, I'm going to the office I'm going to the office 5 days a week, but I really want to be hybrid because I want to spend more time with my children, or I want to be able to do this activity that I've put off doing for a very long time, or I have this hobby that I've just started and I love it. And if I work hybrid, I have more time to do that. But if I have to be in the office 5 days a week, I don't have that flexibility. So even if it was something that you're really passionate, you might think, oh, well, I can do something else that I'm still really passionate about and have that flexibility. And again, that's allows for a Squiggly career to happen. You could transition by climbing the corporate ladder, but typically this is done within one company and not several. So that's another, huge thing that's happened. But then again, you could also reverse it. Maybe some people were working remote and like post-pandemic, they were like, oh, I am so sick of being at home. I want to be in the office. I want to have human contact. I want to do something that's a bit more hands-on. I don't want to be behind a desk. Totally normal as well. Totally fine. Totally understandable. But I think that that's a big reason as to why people also were like, well, I'm going to do a Squiggly career, or we're not consciously like, I want to do this. But a lot of people were like, well, actually, I want to change career paths and I want to have a job that aligns with my values in XYZ because they have now changed. And for me now, for instance, remote working is really important, or hybrid working is really important, or being in the office is really important, or working somewhere that starts really early so I can have the afternoons off, or not afternoons off, but basically the working hours would allow them to have more time in the afternoon, or they want to have time in the morning to do their hobby or their activity, so they want something that starts a little bit later, whatever is important to them. Or maybe they decided that they really want to work somewhere to make a difference. The pandemic affected so many people, they want to help people, and they want to find a company that's like either really sustainable or eco-friendly, or just gives back in some way. Plenty of companies do that. So I think that that was a really big reason as well, because there was this massive shift in the world. It doesn't necessarily need to be a 180. I know for a lot of people it was. For me, it wasn't exactly a 180. It was just a big shift. It definitely makes you re-examine things and like change your mindset. So yeah, I think that that is another big reason. So I've talked to you guys about Squiggly careers. I've given you a good definition. I've told you my big 3 reasons as to why I believe that this has become such an emerging trend, or really why we've honed in on a term for it and why it's become such like a popular, like discussed thing. So you've got, again, I'm just gonna recap it. Social media, huge explosion, so many opportunities, a whole new generation entering the market and becoming a large part of the market. The market, I mean the workforce, but they're entering that and they're becoming a huge part of it. And their priorities and goals are very different to previous generations. So that will also change. And then obviously, the pandemic, it may seem a bit like a distant memory for some people. For others, it's still very fresh, but it happened 3 years ago when COVID actually came out, but I don't think we fully started to recover until maybe not even a year ago. I'd say it's a couple months ago. It depends on where you are in the world and like what country you are. Obviously, other people have different regulations, but that is a huge pivotal thing to happen to so many people that will obviously make you question things. It's just a normal human reaction to be like, oh my gosh, this huge thing has happened. We all had to be inside, and for some people it made them want to be more home, spend more time with their family, pets, whatever it is. With other people, it was like, I'm so sick of being home. Maybe they don't live with children, they don't have children, and they wanted to be out more. Either way, totally understandable. But yeah, a huge thing to happen that would make people change their minds. So now, thanks for sticking around. I will talk to you guys about my tips and tricks. This is based on research I've done. This is based on talking to people and just like, it's a personal opinion. So obviously don't take this directly if you don't agree with it. If it does resonate with you, great. I'm so glad that I could be so helpful. And again, comment below your opinions, comment below your thoughts. Do you agree with this? Do you not agree with this advice? Maybe one of the advices that I'm going to give is really good. Maybe the next you'll be like, don't know if that one really resonates with me. Let me know. This is literally a discussion. It's what I'm here for. If everything I've said so far sounds like, okay, kind of resonating with me, I've done this before, or I haven't done this before, I'm curious, how would I go about it? I have tips and tricks for you coming up now. The first tips and tricks I'm going to be giving you for today on your squiggly careers is know your goals and motivation. That's number one, okay? Number one, know your goals and motivation. Why are you now embracing a squiggly career? Think about like the roots of it. Like, again, is it because you just decided that like there is so much opportunity out there that you want to try something new? Go for it. Is it because you want a different kind of working environment? Is it because you're looking for something a little bit different? Again, go for it. But just know what those are. That's my first tip or my first trick of advice, is just like jot down your goals and your motivations. Like, what's motivating you? Like, what's behind that? Like, what's fueling you to go for it? You know, what's making you say, I want to do this, I want to change this, I'm going to go for it full steam ahead. Totally go for it. But just know what your motivations are, because I think that keeps you centered, and I think that's really important, just to have a plan, because it can be quite tempting and quite easy to go for something and then think, oh, this isn't working out, maybe I should just jump back into something else and be a little bit impulsive. And that's definitely not what a squiggly career is about. But yes, I think that if you just know what's motivating you, what your goals are, you know, what's keeping you, what's like fueling you, what's your passion essentially, or like what, you know, your passion could be anything. Like, it could be you're passionate about the job you do, or you're passionate about finding somewhere that aligns with your like goals or your values, sorry. But yeah, just know what your goals and your motivation are. And I'd write them down, just like have a piece of paper, jot them down, and just like go back to it every time you have a setback, or every time you think, oh, this didn't work out the way I wanted it to. I think it's really important to just go back to that. Just keep yourself centered. That's like my number one. That's like why I put it as number one. I think it's like super important to just keep that in mind and like keep yourself in check. And like, of course, if like a couple of years go down the line and you still don't see anything and you feel like you just want to change it, that's totally fine as well. We're not saying to stick it out for like 50 years, but I do think it's important to have your goals and your motivation written down, because it will always kind of keep you in check, but it will also just remind you of what you're fighting for, what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to go for. And like I said, your motivation, your goals can be anything. It can be like a passion to do what you love. It can be a passion to have like create the life that you want. So that might not necessarily be doing what you love. There's so many different, you know, reasons, and so many different reasons why, or there's so many different things why, but like just focus on you and focus on what you want and what's driving you to make the change, what's driving you to do it essentially. Yeah, that's my number one tip, trick, or goal. Know your goals and know your motivation. I recommend writing them down just because I think that it's a really good way to go back on it. Because, you know, like you might change the wording a little bit in a couple months, or you might think about it in a different way. But I think if you write down what your goals and motivation are and just go back to it, it's a really good way of keeping you grounded and centered. I know it might not work for some people to write things down, but I just think it's really important. You know, it doesn't need to be like splashed all over your room or your like living room or kitchen. It doesn't need to be like a huge sign, but just like maybe in a diary or like a journal, just like writing down what's, you know, keeping you going is honestly so fundamental. And I think if anyone's entering a squiggly career or they are in one, I think that you'll agree with me what I'm saying here, and you'll understand why I'm telling you to do this. Yeah, that's number one. Okay, number two. So it's related to number one, but once you have your motivation and your goals written down, once you've decided why you want to do what you're doing, or you know what you're doing, why you're doing what you're doing, and you've centered yourself, I recommend discussing it with a mentor. It doesn't have to be every week, it does not have to be every day, but whenever you're free and they're free and your schedules can align, maybe like once every 2 weeks, could even be once a month. I really recommend talking to someone that you look up to, So I say this person would be a mentor. It could be a former line manager that you know, had a really strong connection with and you became friends. It could be a friend in your life or a person in your life, like a family member or a friend who has done things that you are really, you know, you're really like, oh, well, this is really impressive. Like, how have you done this? Something that impresses you, something that inspires you. If they've done something like that, that's also someone you could go to. You could reach out to people on social media. Like I said before, social media has exploded and many people are now doing like consultancy and things like that. So they can like offer advice, essentially, is what they're doing. Feel free to reach out to people, honestly. And I'm not saying you have to pay them, but I think that I've definitely reached out to people in the past when I've been stuck on certain things, and I was like overwhelmed and surprised at how like lovely and how open these people were. Like very high up people, but they would respond. And I do think that like go in it with the mentality of what's the worst thing that's going to happen. They're not going to respond to me, or they're going to air my message, they're going to ignore my message. That's literally not the worst thing that could happen. So yeah, just think about what's the worst thing that can happen. Oh, that's not that bad. I will definitely survive this. You'll be fine. But yeah, highly recommend finding a mentor, someone that you look up to, someone who's done things that impress you. And it doesn't need to be in the same area, okay? This is really important. It doesn't need to be someone who's like climbed not the corporate ladder, but someone who's like climbed their way up, done a squiggly career, or the corporate ladder, whichever one it is, in the same area. That's not necessarily what I'm saying. That would be great if it is in the area that you want to change to. Of course, that would be great. But you know, not everyone's looking to change areas when going to a squiggly career. There's many other many other things that they want to be doing. If that's the thing, yes, that would be a good person to go to, someone who's high up in an area you want to change to. But when I say mentor, I just mean someone who's done something that impresses you. Doesn't need to be like the same area of work at all. Could just be their work ethic, could be the way they approach life, anything. But I think that it's always really important to get that unbiased perspective and someone you look up to, because they will have, or chances are they will have, great advice to give. So yeah, I just recommend finding someone, reaching out to someone, sitting down with them, and just discussing everything that you want to discuss. And you know, it's like a back and forth conversation. You can ask them questions, they'll ask you questions. Someone that's like very open and receptive to it. But yeah, the word I'm going to call this person is a mentor, because I think that's the best way to describe it. Just someone who can mentor you, someone who has more life experience, and they can help you out through the rough patches and through the good times too. They can they can have some really good advice to give you in both situations. Yes. And again, it doesn't have to be, I'm just going to recap this really quickly. It does not have to be every day. It does not have to be every week. When you're both free and your schedules align. I don't want to burn anyone out, and I also don't want to make anyone have to do too much. But again, this is just my advice. But yes, and again, to recap, please don't be afraid of reaching out to people. As long as you're polite, the worst thing they're going to do is not open your message or reply, and it's not a bad thing. It's just, it happens. Of course, rejection isn't easy to deal with, but we all have to deal with it. It's part of life. So, but I would say you might be surprised and like just quite happy with how many people reply. I was like very excited at the amount of people that were replying to me when I was going to them for advice. I was like, you're very high up and you're replying to my message. Wow. Because most people are friendly, most people do want to help. And if most people have achieved quite like a lot in a certain area, or they have climbed into high positions, they are usually quite sociable, usually quite friendly people, because you have to be to, you know, network and things like that. And I'm sure that they want to offer advice and help you. If I got to a position and someone was asking me for advice, I would definitely want to help. So yeah, don't be afraid. Like the first to the second to third, I am now going to transition on the point of networking. Networking is super important. So I just said, like, if you can like network with people, I do think that whenever you're doing anything in terms of your career, networking is important. And I don't think that it necessarily needs to be, I think people get the wrong idea when it comes to networking. I think sometimes people think that it's just like pushy messages on LinkedIn, or like showing up to every single event like that X, Y, and Z throws. And you know, that's not what I mean. When I say network, I'm saying network and take opportunities. That's my third piece of advice when it comes to squiggly careers. Network and take opportunities when they are offered to you. And of course, you should be proactive in creating those opportunities as well. And the first point will help you do that if you keep your goals set and like your ambition, and you know what your motivation, and you know you're set. And the second will also help you when you have mentors and stuff like that. But yes, networking is a very good piece of advice. And networking can mean just connecting with as many people in a certain, an area that you're interested in. Much like the second point, that can mean just like reaching out to people who are high up in an area or who have like achieved something that you also want to achieve, and going to them for advice, asking them for their consultancy advice and asking them how they've done that. Networking can also mean going to events when you have the opportunity. If someone at work has invited you to an event that you are not sure if you want to attend, I'd recommend attending, because you just never know who you're going to meet, and you just never know what's going to happen to that opportunity. If you think about everyone that you know now and every opportunity you know now, some of the greatest opportunities in your life, or some of the greatest people that you will meet, are yet to come. So you're yet to meet them. You're yet to get these opportunities. Think about it like that, if that makes sense. I think that's the best way to think about it. I'm not saying throw yourself at everything and be pushy and like burn yourself out. No, but if you think about it, like there's this opportunity, I feel okay to attend. I'm not feeling burned out, but I just don't know if I should go. I'd be proactive and go, because you just never know who you're going to meet. And if you think about every opportunity you've had so far, every person you met so far, sometimes the greatest people you're yet to meet, you're yet to meet these people, you're yet to have these amazing opportunities. So that's something that I would highly recommend doing. And I'm not saying that every event is going to be fantastic, so please don't come at me afterwards saying that you didn't meet anyone. I'm just saying that there are opportunities there that you also need to be proactive in taking them. If you remember your goals, you remember why you're motivated, why you want to do this, what you're trying to achieve, what you're going after, taking every opportunity you can and taking every opportunity to network is a good thing. In moderation, I will say, I don't want anyone to run themselves ragged or get really burnt out, because that's also not great. Everything in life is a balance, I say. So it's like take what you can, but don't bite off more than you can chew. It's just a balance. But yeah, networking opportunities are great. And like I said before, if you want to reach out to people, you absolutely should. Don't feel ever like embarrassed or like, I should not reach out to this person. Like I said before, the worst thing they're going to do is not reply to you. And that's more their problem. That's not your problem. You reached out, you did your bit. And I just think, again, something that's important to remember is like, life is for taking opportunities, and if you can take it, then take it, and you just never know where it's going to get you. So yeah, that's my advice. Network where you can. Networking could also be, it doesn't have to be a work event. Someone like a friend could invite you to something in their area that you might think, oh, I'm not sure if I should go. Again, definitely just go if you feel up for it and you're not, like terribly ill or something, like with the flu, because you just, again, never know who you're going to meet. And yeah, I'm just going to say this again because I don't want people to get angry. I'm not saying that you will have a fantastic opportunity to meet someone, but you might, and that's, I think, the important thing. And I think the important thing also with Squiggly Careers is being proactive and like proactively designing and creating what you want. You have to go for it. Things are not going to just fall in your lap. It will take hard work. It will take consistency. It will take knowing your goals, staying motivated, staying clear, like a clear laser sharp focus. But part of that is taking opportunities that come to you and being proactive. So yeah, that's my third piece of advice on Squiggly Careers. My fourth piece of advice on Squiggly Careers is directing your own development and learning. It's directing that. So again, I'm going to transition from the third to the fourth. Like we spoke about being proactive, taking opportunities and networking. Like we spoke about, well, that will, yeah, from the third to the fourth, directing your own development and learning. That means being as proactive as you can about learning the skills that you need to do whatever it is. If it's a complete, 180 career change, if you're looking at like a completely different area, then yes, you will probably most likely need to take courses. People have specialties and become specialists, sorry, in certain things. I'm not saying you necessarily have to go to university and pay for like 3 years, but there are great online courses, just like Roadmap MBA, that's for business, but I'm just saying, there are great online courses for specific areas that will take you like a month or two, and you can very, very feasibly do them on the side, just taking a couple of hours on the weekends to like study and practice. So maybe after work, you know, if you have the time and your work schedule isn't too crazy, because I know that people have different work schedules. But yeah, just being really proactive and doing what you have to do. Much like my previous 2 points, this can mean reaching out to connections for people in the area that you want to get into. It can mean messaging people, asking if they have freelance work in your specific area. It can mean asking for advice. But yeah, I think just be really proactive about it. Do you want to work for a certain company? Do you have your eye, for instance, on a certain job that's very coveted, that you know might become available in a couple of months or like a couple of years? I would take steps to learn about it. I would take steps, and you should take steps to learn about the company, to like liaise yourselves with them, to like become more, ingratiate yourself with the company. Let's say that you want to work for a company. That's the example I'm going with if you can't tell. Let's say there's a company in mind, a specific company that you really want to work for. You've seen their content, you think they're fantastic. Start connecting with people in that company, because most likely they will reply to you on LinkedIn. They will accept it. It doesn't have to be LinkedIn, by the way. It can be different forms of social media. But start connecting with them. Start opening up those opportunities, you know. And then if you want, you can ask for advice. I would always recommend sending a portfolio over and saying, this is my previous work experience. I would love to do some freelance. You know, things like that. You know, and chances are you can always learn more by directly working with them. So they might have freelance work that might not be super well paid. I think that's really important to mention also when you're starting out in different areas. But it's like a little foot in the door, right? Like you're getting your way in there slowly. I think that's really important. If you're sending over your portfolio, or your CV, make sure to curate it for the companies. Like what design do they use? Like what logos do they use? That kind of stuff. Because even if it's not super accurate, what it will tell them is that you care and that you're passionate. And a lot of people, or a lot of, I'm going to say it, I think a lot of people want someone to work with them or for them that's passionate, because it shows that you'll be engaged with the work. It shows that you're going to go the extra mile, you're going to go above and beyond, and that's what they need. They need someone who's going to be engaged with them and with their community that they have, right? With their colleagues as well. So yeah, I think that that's something really important, just taking opportunities as much as you can. And you know, if you can't, online courses are great, and that's an amazing thing to put on your CV, on your resume. Like there's so many out there, and I'm sure there will be something for the area that you're looking in, unless it's like something that does require like a full-on like medical degree, then this is not for you. But for everything else, there is some sort of something that you can find online. So many people do this type of work as well. They'll do consultancy, so they'll help you throughout the way. Now that will require you paying them, but again, if you'd rather do that instead of a course, I'm just saying there's so many opportunities nowadays, which is again why Squiggly Careers has become such an emerging and awesome trend. But there's so many opportunities, and yeah, if you just grab it, like you will go for it, go full steam ahead, you will be able to do what you want. So yeah. To recap, my tips and tricks, my pieces of advice for Squiggly Careers. Firstly would be, I'm gonna go through them like I just did. I think the first one is to know your goals and know your motivation. What's motivating you? What's keeping you focused? You know, write it down. I recommend writing it down to know what you're going for and know what you're doing. Find a mentor, reach out to someone in your life or not in your life already, and schedule time to talk with them as much and as frequently as you and they can, as frequently as it fits you both. Because it'll help you stay motivated, it'll help you stay clear, but chances are this person that has more life experience than you will be able to give you like key pieces of advice that somebody else probably won't, and they'll usually be an unbiased opinion. So I think that's really important. Yeah. Networking and taking opportunities as much as you can, again, without burning yourself out, it's a balance. And taking the time to grow your development and your learning. So these are all very proactive things, and essentially the thing with Squiggly Careers is wherever you're going, no matter where it is, you are going to have to be proactive, and it's not always going to be easy, but the important thing is that you stick with it and you know why you're doing it, and that's the most important piece of advice is to do that. I think is just to have a clear focus on why you're doing it, to follow all the tips and tricks that I gave before. But yeah, just keep in mind why you're doing it. It'll keep you centered, it'll keep you grounded, and like I said, it's not always going to be easy, but it's something that's worth doing. Absolutely, it's definitely worth pursuing what you want to pursue, whatever that may be. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in today, you guys, to this Roadmap MBA video. Comment below what your thoughts are, if you agree, if you don't agree. Maybe comment below some pieces of advice that you wish someone had given you, or pieces of advice you'd like to give someone else who's embarking on their squiggly career. You know, maybe you've just started out, or maybe you have been doing a squiggly career for years and now there's finally a term for it. So yeah, comment below all your thoughts. Everything good. Constructive criticism is always appreciated. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning into this video. I've been Izzy, your host.